Watch!
Yay, we made it.
Hey, yeah, sorry. We were already talking to our guests, so we're a little late. Sorry, but we'll bring Ben Gibson in here shortly. We're happy to see everybody here already. This is going to be a great show because this is the guy to talk about sci-fi games. Gary, it's good to see you. How was your
Good
week?
to see you, man. My week was just like everybody else's, chaotic and busy. And no gaming. No gaming. But we have a game Tuesday night. We're doing Easy D6 Tuesday night, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. I want to do a quick shout out because this is part of my crazy week. So I discovered that someone decided to use my bank account for some purchases, and thankfully my bank caught it quickly, shut down my account, the whole nine. And then due to a misunderstanding on my part, we didn't get the ball rolling to get my account back up. And I got a notification earlier this week that my Arduino Portal to Adventure Kickstarter funds were declined, and I had 7 days or they were going to cancel the whole thing. So I was freaking out. I reached out to George and Dave. They were on the show about a month or so ago. They're the Arduino guys from Emperor's Choice. They were awesome. They were like, "Hey, we're going to set one aside for you. We'll figure this out." Da 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 da. And thankfully, yesterday my account was up and running. I was able to pay for everything. But I wanted to give a shout out to George and Dave. They were really awesome. Matt Tapp too, because I let him know. I'm like, man, I'm not trying to screw you. I'm not trying to screw you. But
the things you have to do when you have friends, who are doing their own Kickstarters. It wasn't me, man.
Yeah, no, I just felt, ridiculous. Yeah. So anyway, so there's that. I hope everyone hits like, subscribe, bell icon. I don't say enough of this. We're really bad at shilling our own thing. But I want to start streaming to Facebook, and they won't let me unless I have 100 follows. So if you're on Facebook, please go to Gaming with Lord Mattias and follow me there so I can start streaming actual plays there. More of an experiment to see how that works. But I see a lot of grognards and OSR types still using Facebook. So I want to try to, use that. So please do that. Other than that, I hope everybody checks out Nerd Cognito tomorrow, the Speakeasy. Dying Breed can't be here tonight in the chat, but he was tweeting me out and the show out last night. So I want to do them a solid and reciprocate. So Speakeasy, Rumble, Nerd Cognito channel, 5:00 tomorrow. Go there. I'm sure it's going to be hilarious as always. We got some super chats we'll deal with real quick before we get Ben in here. Disco, $5. Hey, man, good to see you. Yard Dog brothers and sword sisters. Now that the kiddies are asleep, it's time for the second watch. Painting minis while listening, so entertain me. Are you not entertained, sir?
It's coming.
It's coming. And then Mercurius, $1 for Australian. Thanks, man. We appreciate it. Good to see you. And I don't know. I think without further ado, anything else?
Did I've got nothing. Bring Ben on. Let's talk sci-fi.
All right, let's talk sci-fi
and other things.
Hey, Ben.
What's up, guys?
Mr. Gibson.
How's it going?
It's going well. It is going well. So I got a message from Matt. I don't remember how long ago. It said we're going to talk to Mr. Gibson about sci-fi and role-playing games. And I thought this was.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, I was excited about it because he said sci-fi sandbox, and there's a lot to talk about there. So,
it's
welcome.
Yeah, it's one of the things we haven't actually tackled yet on the show. We've talked about modern games. We've talked the hell out of like fantasy games. We've talked about West Marches. In fact, we're going to do a show where we're going to revisit the West Marches, given some of our experiences this past year. But sci-fi is just not something we've tackled. And to be honest, sci-fi makes me nervous. Like if out of all the games I've played and types, I'm the most uncomfortable with sci-fi. Like I've never run a Kids on Bikes mystery game, but I think I could do it, But sci-fi, which I have run before, I'm just always uncomfortable, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But I'm really excited to have you here because you've just told us before we got on the show You've been running like Stars Without Another Number for 2 years. You've been writing sci-fi stuff. So thanks for being here. I think this is going to be great.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. I love sci-fi. It's actually probably my first. It's actually probably my first love. I was telling you guys beforehand. I have been watching Next Gen before I have Memories. So they set little baby Ben up at a high chair, and we watched Next Gen, like Star Trek Next Generation, when I was a wee little lad. So it's probably my first love.
So I think Star Trek is something that a lot of folks, that's their first gateway into sci-fi. Um, when it comes to space adventure, because I think there's a difference between sci-fi and space opera. Like I've run a ton of Star Wars D6 games and some of the newer Star Wars games. Um, you told me one time that's not sci-fi, and I believe you. You said Star Wars is not science fiction, and I believe you. But what is the thing that differentiates sci-fi from space opera or, galactic adventure or whatever you want to call it?
I mean, if you want me, it's probably the science part. And I would say Star Wars can be sci-fi or it can not be, depending on who's writing it and which it is. If you guys are familiar with the Timothy Zahn expanded universe novels, that is sci-fi. I mean, that is straight up sci-fi. The guy's a physicist. He has, he has great characters and does all the Star Wars stuff, but he also has science in it. He also uses sci-fi concepts. He also he deals with the universe as it's realistic. So Star Wars, saying Star Wars is not sci-fi, then that's kind of what is Star Wars? Star Wars is 100 different things.
At this point, it is, right? That's why it's probably not very popular anymore. It's not as focused as it was. My ear trumpet asks, "Is Firefly sci-fi?" I would say yes.
Yeah, a little bit.
It seems sci-fi. Well, that's interesting because when I think of sci-fi, I think of spaceships, traveling to other planets, that kind of stuff. And I'm hearing from you, my definition may be overly broad. Are you when I think of hard sci-fi, I think of The Expanse, right? I never read the books, full disclosure, but I love the series. And I used to game with a guy, he passed away about a year ago, but he knew the author of The Expanse. And we would talk a lot about Traveler, and I used to get so bored with the way he ran Traveler because he'd expect us to actually do the calculations. I'm like, dude, I'm not a scientist. Can I just make a roll? But hard sci-fi seems like it's really rooted into the actual real world physics, and the game mechanics sort of I guess would spring forth from that, and then the stories would be rooted in the early, how do I want to put this, character actions and decisions from in novels and short stories would be limited by what is happening in space, right? And I guess that's what made The Expanse so compelling, right? Because it seemed, it was real, it felt real, right? This could actually happen, but they still had some fantastical elements to for the faster than light travel that they were doing with what they unfortunately called the Epstein drives, right? So is that how you define it, something pretty, I don't want to use the word narrow, but
well, yeah,
hard side?
Hard sci-fi is a good term, because that's there's the Mohs scale of sci-fi hardness is a TV trope thing for that reason. Expanse is pretty hard on there. James S.A. Corey, that's actually two guys. That's their pen name together. The Expanse is based on their D20 Modern sci-fi game, believe it or not.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they use D20 Modern to write a hard sci-fi. I think sci-fi in general is more to me, it's more forward looking. It's not really about the science so much as looking for human advancement. Which is why, so there's some sci-fi that's not very science focused, but it's speculating about humans advancing in some way or another. So Firefly, I feel like there's more the the frontier aspect, the exploring new worlds, the psychic powers, that is kind of the sci-fi too, because it has this belief in human advancement. It has this belief in people. There's something optimistic about it, even though the worlds are often crap sack. It's this belief that people move forward. Whereas fantasy, a lot of the times, it's almost more backward looking. Not that that's a bad thing at all, but it's a lot of it is looking for the human stories and the myths that kind of inform us. So Star Wars, I mean, I think Star Wars can be legit both. You can have both aspects, but Star Wars, a lot of it is like examining that myth, examining that big monomyth is a big part of Star Wars, and that's why it feels fantasy, and that's a true thing too. Like that's a big part of human stories. I love it. But that's kind of where I see the two things. Hard sci-fi is good. Space opera is legit. Like I'm not going to ever. I think of it as different as something from hard sci-fi, but I love space opera too. I'm not going to ever diss space opera. It's a legit genre.
Well,
Real quick, we
ahead.
actually got a Rumble rant. We haven't had one of these in a while.
Oh.
From PS Caglione 3, $5. Love your opening and your show. Hey man, thanks for being here. I love my janky AI. I know it's controversial, but it's punk rock to me. So thank you. I appreciate it. Glad to see you. Anyway, continue.
I like to pop out. I like having earphones so I can pop them out when the loud section
I've
comes.
always got an ear off and a mute.
That's
I don't like the only one who likes the volume of that intro is Matt.
Yeah.
Everybody else has been like, this is the dumbest thing. Yeah, no, here's my thing. I enjoy all of the sort of different genres or levels of what people will call sci-fi. I've never tried to do hard sci-fi in a game, and I don't really know if that, like, would 2001 be engaging as a role-playing game?
There is I think it's Easy D6 version 1 where it basically is just hard sci-fi, people exploring the solar system. I bumped into it randomly in my itch.io delves that I do, where they're just like mining on Mercury, and you've got to race and fix this mining vessel before Mercury rotates to be in the sun. Like there's one shots that can be there.
Right.
I would feel a little slow. I feel like for long-term campaigns to be stuck that much. Stars Without Number is very there's sci-fi stuff, and you can run things more sci-fi or less, but Traveler, Stars Without Number, all that kind of thing. There's space opera elements there too, because it has faster than light by definition. That's going to be a little bit more janky.
Right.
But it has that exploration. It has that poke out and see strange new tech. I love that stuff.
Right.
And that's way better for the long-term campaign.
So let's get into your campaign, or Stars Without Number, however, or the game itself. I wasn't able to obviously read the whole thing before the interview, but one of the things that I heard about a lot with all of his games are the tables. So I immediately went back there to those tables, and just glancing through them, it's like, oh, well, here's how I'm planning my next sci-fi campaign. Regardless of rule set, this is where my sci-fi campaign is coming from.
Kevin Crawford is a genius when it comes to like those tables. His system or sector generation, I have used so much of that just because I don't know how he does it with just a couple of die rolls. He can generate amazing quests in every single system based on just a few little like keywords. He's a genius.
It's great. And so I wonder with those tools, obviously there are jobs, some of the tables are complications, some of those tables are jobs. But when you're talking about running sandbox in sci-fi, I've run, like I say, a lot of Star Wars. I played Star Frontiers, believe it or not, when I was a kid for about 10 minutes. And there's always this sort of keeping the player poor and, making them hungry. But when you're in a sandbox, we had talked before about creating villains in a sandbox, and you were like, don't do it. Don't put your hand in there. Don't start messing around yet. Let them find it. How do you handle a sandbox when your players have a fucking spaceship?
Yeah, well, because it's more than just, oh, we're gonna go check out this forest that has a dungeon in it. It's we're gonna go check out this system that has multiple planets, that has multiple locations on them. Like it's really big. To me, it's daunting. And just real quick, yeah, I agree. Crawford his tables are awesome. The sandbox game I tried to run with Alien RPG. I love Alien RPG, but it wants to be, yeah, it wants to be a space. What they call it, a sector crawl or a parsec crawl, but it's just so cumbersome. Ugh. But anyway, yeah, like how did you handle it?
Well, so I totally did it differently with Sci-Fi, actually, for one thing. I wanted to give them, for one thing, this is my online group, which is like, it's good friends of ours. My wife and I are in it, a couple other friends, like it's all much college people. I don't usually like running online, but they got grandfathered into it. But this is a directed sandbox. I'll just go ahead and tell you how the campaign started. The campaign starts... Sure. They are a small, like, reservist ship, so they do some smuggling on the side. But they're like, they have a crew. So there's the main characters, but then they also have a crew. It's like 20 people in their ship, which has been great for little NPC interactions. But they start off, they're part of the Federation fleet. They're just a little fleet tender. The Federation fleet knows the sector nearby has a evil controller who is... has ambitions to conquer the Federation. And at the very first session, I had a big section of the Federation fleet betray them. I had the fleet get completely annihilated except for the player's ship. And the last thing that the Admiral said is, we have the location of the controller. He transmitted the location of the controller, and you got to get out of here. And I had the battleship sacrifice itself so they could go through the jump point into the controller sector. So they got hurtled into the controller sector with an endpoint at the other end of it. No idea how they're going to face this guy. No idea how they're going to, like, no idea anything about him beyond the fact that he was bad and the fact that, they saw all their friends die. And there is a rebel fleet chasing them. And I have a patron for that rebel fleet. That patron is my 11-year-old son. And let me tell you,
that's awesome.
There is nothing more horrifying than a very precocious 11-year-old who has no holds barred, wants to kill you, and is in control of a fleet. They have almost died a couple times because of just clever plans that he's come up with. Like he snuck a deserter on board that was actually going to sabotage them when they were in Spike. He did all kinds of stuff like that. So he's the live villain who's in command of the rebel fleet chasing them, which has been great. And he has a sadistic glee about it.
That is fantastic.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's been great. But the sandboxes work great because they've had some pressure behind them. And part of it is, they're always being searched for, but they did eventually find some hidden jump points, and they got a little room. But then they also have to explore. They have to figure out where allies are. They have to keep the ship running. They have to pay their guys. The crew has morale. So I'm really glad I had a big enough ship for them to have actual crew with actual morale. For one thing, it's really good for sci-fi kind of stuff because there's away missions. And the movement, this is probably one of the things that intimidated you. You get to move a lot in sci-fi. Like they have a shuttle and their main ship, and they often go to multiple places. Having a big crew means each one of them has a few NPCs that'll just go. So sometimes, they have the command crew as their main PCs, but then sometimes they'll split the party, and that's fine. I'll just have them take along some of their NPC or, secondary PC crewmen will come along with them on the away mission as move along. Like Warped Plots has it exactly right if you wanted to have that one up there. But it's so good. Going off on these little different away missions with a big crew, but all of that has meant that they have to pay them. They have to figure out about morale. They have to see operating and keeping everything repaired. It's actually a really exciting state right now. They have allied with a bunch of uplifted psychic slugs Because
Nice.
sci-fi.
Sure. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, because of sci-fi. And they've got themselves a little fleet, and they're kind of wandering around. They were able to sneak off. They were able to put a computer worm into all the controllers' fleet. They were able to, which meant they had to sneak aboard a heavy frigate and steal the computer core to get the codes. There's all kinds of fun stuff they did. So they're trying to spark a huge sector-wide rebellion while they have a fleet being led, and they're hurtling. Like right now, they're in Spike, hurtling to the next system where there's a shipyard that they're trying to take out with a bunch of their slug buddies, and there's all kinds of. It's just wild stuff, but all that built because they had a fire lit under them, even though it's open sand. So again, all open sandbox, they could go all these different lengths, but there is also a fire. They can't, they can't just twiddle their thumbs.
Yeah,
which is good.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's kind of what I did with my Alien RPG game I ran a couple years ago. Instead, because the book tells you like, oh, they could have a ship given to them by a corporation and blah blah blah, and I'm like, well, okay, so they have a ship given to them that now there's no incentive to do anything with it. So I actually went online and looked up like really simple mortgage like calculations. And I'm like, you guys bought a ship, you owe money every month. And who was I talking to? I was talking to someone about this just the other day. The player that was playing the captain, he was also managing the books. I swear to God, by the third session, he shows up, pulls out his game book, his character sheet, and a bottle of Pepto-Bismol. They needed like $30,000 to $40,000 a month, so they were constantly grinding, which was great for me to feed missions to them. You know what I mean? But Alien RPG, like you said earlier, it's really more of like a one-shot thing. So I sort of felt like I was generating a series of like options that I already kind of knew, already had like outlines for, and I'm like, okay, which one are you doing today? As opposed to like, here's the star map, where do you want to go? Because I just don't like Alien RPGs like parsec crawl rules. They're just not very good. But
right.
I want to before we go on, there's some questions I want to hit. Daryl Eret said, this is going back a little ways. He says, safe to say sci-fi uses technical solutions to problems.
Technical or scientific or engineering solutions, basically. Yeah. Something where your brain, can fix things. You can puzzle it out.
Okay. And you know what? That's actually a great segue to one of the reasons why I get uncomfortable about sci-fi. And I really want to know your response to this, because I know you're not just a gamer, you're an author. Whenever this is my biggest problem, whenever I run sci-fi, I feel like I'm an extra on Star Trek. She can't take much more, Captain. The flux capacitor with the plasma core is about to defibrillate, and I'm just spouting out gibberish, and I feel weird. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel, how do you handle that kind of thing, the technical stuff?
Well, you should do more of the Galaxy Quest. Hey guys, they say the
great answer
falling apart.
That might be my favorite sci-fi movie. So good.
That's the best Star Trek movie.
Absolutely,
by far.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I have a bad answer, and then maybe a helpful answer. The bad answer is I'm a NASA engineer, so I actually know my tech. And I've been reading sci-fi all my life. As soon as I could read, I was reading sci-fi. So I have a lot of it in background, which is actually fun because I have at least some of my players are also very much scientists and engineers. And so they have really fun stuff. Like one of them is a nurse, and she's playing the ship's doctor and has some horrifying medical stuff that she brings in. And another guy is an engineer, and he has really good technical side. My wife's a chemist, and so she has, and also is very, very sci-fi savvy. So she usually has really good ideas. But some of it is your appendix N. Just like it'd be kind of bad to run AD&D without reading at least some of the appendix N that informed it.
Sure.
A sci-fi game. The type of sci-fi game you want to run, you should probably be familiar with it. Like Alien RPG, you should watch the Alien movies. both of
Right.
them,
Absolutely.
the two that exist.
Right.
You should,
Yes.
you
I
should
agree.
watch the two
Yes.
Alien movies that exist.
Agreed.
And then, so that'll help inform a lot of that stuff. Whereas if you're going to be doing if you're going to do an Expanse kind of like crunchy in there, you should probably do Expanse. You should probably do Heinlein. You should probably do some of the sci-fi covering that. If you're going to do a Star Trek kind of game, then you should probably watch a lot of Star Trek. When whenever you want to get off, that's fine.
Just wanted to highlight this comment from Eric. He's my game master in our Hostile game. I like that Hostile has its technical manual for all the setting specific bits. That helps to prevent techno babble. That's been a fun game. Eric, I'm going to say this again. I'm really sorry. It was a late night and I was tired. Anyway, one more question from Warped Plots. You prefer your sci-fi with elves or not?
Well, I don't love elves, but I kind of love to hate elves. So that's good. Are we talking about Warhammer 40K? Because I have some love for Warhammer 40K, but and that's where the Eldar are.
Right.
But I mean, the elf archetype for the ancient snooty race that is better than you. It is the precursor. That's easy to do bad and make your players absolutely hate them. But it can also be mysterious and interesting too. So I guess it depends on how the elves are handled. That's kind of how I'd feel.
Are Vulcan space elves or Romulan space? I mean, they have the ears.
Vulcans
They're
are kind of
different.
space elves.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're pre
and
they're,
the
they're before
Romulans
us.
Romulans would be your space drow.
Yeah.
If I got the lore right.
I could dig that.
So,
yeah.
I was going to ask
Just
you
without the hedonism and degeneracy.
And Klingons are your space orcs to the point where
they were.
Yeah, they were.
Well, when they were good. Well, to the point where I use Klingon. I speak semi-fluent Klingon, and I use Klingon when I'm playing my fantasy games for my orcs.
Oh, nice.
That is my orcish in my fantasy
That
games.
fits.
The only Klingon I know is Penwi Jat. Suck my torpedo tube.
Yes.
Anyway.
Well, that's funny. So you're doing the sandbox. Actually, wait, here's my question. My stars without number question, because I didn't read that today. How do they handle XP? Because sometimes in sci-fi games, you're not trying to kill the monster, you're not collecting gold. How does Stars Without Number do it? What do you think is good or bad? What's a good way to do it?
He does kind of a milestone XP. So it's kind of, you do an X number of adventures, and that will get you an XP for just doing significant accomplishments. It's kind of fuzzy, kind of shadow darky in that sense, where it's just, what's significant. How does this make you feel, Gary? Do you feel like they've earned an XP point? I don't love that system, but it certainly worked for this particular one.
Yeah, for real. And I guess the other question I have about sci-fi before I run out of questions that I actually thought of earlier today. Are you a lot of sci-fi? I think most people are exposed to sci-fi through television or movies. And then there's this old guard that used to read that still does the books. Do you find it when you're running a session or creating an adventure or what have you, do you find that you're more influenced by one medium of sci-fi more than perhaps another? Maybe that's a silly question,
Gary.
That's a good question, because I mean, I'll use both, but what's actually kind of funny is I read a lot more sci-fi than my players, but all my players watch a lot of sci-fi, so they'll have more book sci-fi situations that I throw at them. Then they will be using they'll be using the movie mindset to go in, which is great actually for a GM to player side of it, because they're thinking action tropes, they're thinking down, first person POV. This is what they're looking at, whereas I'm thinking more the world creation side. So I have I've got the other engineer also has read a whole heck of a lot, so he will actually sometimes recognize the things that I'm completely stealing, because I mean, we're GMs, we steal
every day.
I mean, that's just the fun part of it. So But I myself use more the reading type, and I think that's what Traveler assumes. And Stars Without Number,
Absolutely.
Stars Without Number is Kevin Crawford's love letter to Traveler. It has some modern stuff, and it does have a little bit of XP, but it is I love you, Traveler. I love you so
Right.
much. Like that is the message of the game.
Yeah.
You see it everywhere. So
That's
I think
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go
My
ahead.
bad. I was say Traveler. I've never played original Traveler. I've read through it. I take that back. When I was a little kid, my uncle tried to show me how to play it, and I thought it was the most boring thing ever because he was rolling all the dice for everything. And anyway, whatever.
Oh,
That's my only experience with original Traveler. But wasn't original Traveler set up kind of like original D&D, so that you were going to be creating your own worlds?
oh yeah.
And it did not come with a setting, correct?
Mm, it had a very thin assumed setting, but you're doing a lot of your own worlds. Actually, it has great tables too. Crawford's, I use them because they're a little more usable and fast, but the Traveler original tables are excellent. I mean, they are good sci-fi world building. So that was what it assumed. And if we're just going to go on a side, the cover for Traveler, the original cover, probably has the best single RPG book cover.
I would agree.
Mayday.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. Yeah. We actually, in the Hostile game, our band of misfits, we actually, in order to disguise our ship, which is called the Ticket to Midnight, we hacked into the transponder and changed it to Free Trader Beowulf as like and so that way we could
Nice.
sneak into a system and they didn't know it was us. It was that's and it's so evocative, right? Like you're like, oh, what the hell is this? I want to play this game, you know. And then you start rolling up characters, and then your character dies during generation, which is awesome. And then you roll another one, and that one dies, and then you finally get a character that lives, and then off you go. But you know, going back to sort of like this Appendix N concept, and I asked this to everybody, and I may have asked this to you before, but specifically sci-fi. What is your Appendix N? What movies, authors, even music? Like, what influences you? What gets you jazzed? Hell, I know you're a real world scientist. You hit me with like actual scientists. Like, what gets you like so psyched to do what you do?
Well, man, you see, the trouble is I'm ravenous about this stuff. Like I geek out about this all the time. What's been hitting me recently, I absolutely adore the biological sci-fi of Adrian Tchaikovsky, like the composer. But Tchaikovsky's Children of Time series, it's Children of Time, Children of Ruin, Children of Strife. It's this far future where there's a bunch of accelerated evolution that's happened with the seeds of Earth. Basically, it's biological sci-fi. I love that crap. It's inspired a lot. I mean, it's not part of my job, but I do read a lot of NASA publications. I read a lot of preprints for it's called ARXIV or ARXIV, ARXIV. It's where they publish a lot of preprints, scientific preprints. I love like any kind of exobiology. I have it scooping any kind of exobiology or stellar cartography or anything that's that. I love to just do that. I nerd out about that stuff, but I don't put most of that in there. But it helps inform. You know, if any player asks you, so why is the planet like this? It is 100% legit to say, because that's how it is. It's a planet. But I like to be able to say, well, because the axial tilt is this way. This is how close the moon is. That's why there's this level of solar insolation. Like I like being able to say that, but it's not something necessary. It just helps me, kind of informs me, because usually if you have a science background, there's a story you can tell. There's a story you can tell and start speculating on it.
Yeah.
You can start pushing on that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at and why I get so like uncomfortable about sci-fi, because that's the kind of I respect that your response is, yeah, you could just say it's because it's a planet, but I sort of feel like, you know, from my fantasy background, where I have like the lore, the god battle, whatever the gods war, whatever's happening, I can reference that, right? Like it's this ancient lore that explains everything. Ugh. Well, in sci-fi, it's the science that explains it. So if they're like doing a scan of a planet and they're like, why is it like this? I kind of want to be able to say, like you just said, well, the axial tilt and this, that, and the other thing. And if you want to really get into calculations, we can spend some time doing it. We're not gonna, but that at least, like, I feel like it is more immersive, right? And that's where I feel like I fail because I'm not a scientist. Like, I just don't know the lingo.
I'm Matt. I'm gonna, as someone who's done science fiction games and is definitely not a scientist, I think you're worrying a little bit too much. Why are things like this? Because a comet streaked past the planet, it tilted on its axis, the polar caps went this way. You can watch, bro. It's not, you don't, and not only that, your players are honestly, they're gonna be worried about whatever you're throwing at them that might kill them. Like, his kid is constantly chasing him. So why is it like this? Just make something up.
Yeah, I would almost call that a me problem. The fact that I do want to know that but I love it. So, and anything you're doing that, if you love something and if you love the world building part of it, you should indulge in that. That's the joy of GMing, but you shouldn't let it stop you. If you love the aesthetic, if you love, you can say, this is a magic drive. I don't know how the FTL works. I don't know if it's a wormhole generator or if it's using Alcubierre warp drive. I don't know. Like, you can but you can say one or the other and then just say, that's how it works. Just as long as it's consistent.
Sure.
Because players need to know consistency. It was funny because Stars Outnumbered does not use rocket equations. Right. But we were in one system that had a rather primitive group that had been tossed back, and they were using rockets. And one of my guys used to work for SpaceX. Now he's JPL, but he was doing the calculations. He's like, okay, so he's like, all right, so they're going to send the package. They're not going to do a high efficiency orbit, so they're actually going to do a bunch of Hohomen transfers. And I was like, but dude, you have a fusion drive. You can magically say, I go to from point A to point B. Sure. He was trying to figure out the orbital mechanics. I was like, yeah, but that's not the universe we're in. Yes. And I had done that calculation, so I knew where the rocket was coming in, but you didn't have to. Like, that's not the kind of drives you have. You have I go from point A to point B. I go in a semi-straight line. Like, it doesn't have to be something along those lines. I can say how it inspires me, if you don't mind, like, talking about one of the books I'm writing right now.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'm writing a boys book.
Hey, real quick, before we do this, let's get that last super chat.
All right.
Oh,
yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
You want to read it, Gary?
Sure, I'll read it. Matt, I know that you might have something you need to get up for.
I'm about to do that, yeah.
Super chat, $5. Robert Santon. I don't usually participate with adult beverages. Tonight is the night. Rough week. Listen, your answers are not going to be found at the bottom of that bottle, but have fun looking anyway. Right?
Well, hopefully this is fun for you, Robert.
Yeah. Anyway, go on. So you're talking about your book and how you're...
Oh, well, just kind of how sci-fi works in that. I'm writing a boys book. So like a boys adventure book, kind of like, kids get in trouble kind of a thing. It's all about spelunking. It's all about going deeper and deeper into like the boys get lost caving and they go down deep. And they get so deep that there's a completely alien biology. I'm basing it on real world lithic biologies that are in the lithosphere, in the mantle, where it's a bunch of, there's bacteria they don't do photosynthesize. They can eat radiation. They can eat chemicals, and they can eat thermal gradients. They can just live off the thermal gradients. So I built, these horrifying rockish monsters because I wanted a threat. I wanted something scary for the story. But then I was like, so how would they work? Well, they have a different metabolism. They don't have the wonderful metabolism that we do. Our metabolism is built on sunlight. So we actually have a lot of energy that we can always be using. I was like, these guys, they're sentient and they use all the bacteria, everything in there. They use it for energy, but these horrible spider monsters, like rocky spider monsters, they can't do long term. They don't have the metabolism of somebody that's from the surface that uses photosynthesis. They have a metabolism of something that is coming from chemical sources in the rocks, like sulfur. So the kids are facing problems based on these monsters, which are horrifying when they're moving, but they have to rest. They will do a sudden burst of activity. They'll do a sudden chase, but then they have to just go sessile and recharge because they're living off of chemistry. They're living off of just the bacteria that's inside of them, just like volcano snails, if you're going to use real world stuff. So that's a case of like the real science. I love the science part of it, but that gets a fun story. I mean, that means the story can be, okay, so how do we figure out how to overcome these monsters? That when these monsters are active, they are way, we can't handle these. But these monsters are very, very active, and then they have to rest because they don't have the metabolism of a photosynthetic like setup like we are. They can't eat plants and then eat animals like we do. They have to go a slow recharge. And so that's a sci-fi, even though it's down below. Even though there's not space, that is 100%. Right. That's not a fantasy story. That's a sci-fi story. It's speculating about something deep within the earth that is, it's a science fiction. It's based on the science, but then you have fun stuff because then you also have horrifying 6-armed monsters, like blind monsters that use sonar chasing kids through dark tunnels. I mean, that's fun adventure. You can't say that's not,
sure,
lickety split adventure. It doesn't mean you take away the adventure. You should never do that. But it means, if you know the science, if you can kind of like get some speculative stuff in there, it can be really fun to say, okay, so what are the limitations based on what we know? If we figure out how this thing works, if we puzzle it out, then we can maybe overcome it. Whereas
as the dumb guy in the room, I'm just going to say, turn on the Discovery Channel and just watch some shit.
Oh yeah.
And it'll work its way into your game. All right, there you go.
No, I mean,
exactly. Be smarter than me, but that is just for regular folks.
Well, I just want to say, like, kind of going back to what you were, and I do agree. Like, your players, if they're into it, they're whatever you say, so long as it's consistent, they're gonna eat up. But I kind of want to be at your table, so when I do a scan and you're like, yeah, the axis and this, that, because that will make me feel smart and make me feel like, like my character's actually doing this thing and I understand this stuff.
I think the kind of details you're worried about, Matt, is the kind of shit that like in a dungeon when you mention something is in the room that has no importance whatsoever. You shouldn't have mentioned it because now they're going to obsess over this little detail. You're right. I wonder if
it's a little different though. But to me, my concern is about immersion, and I want the players to feel like so if I do, talk about a room and I do mention these insignificant details, it's only because they're there, and so they see it, and whether or not they interact with it is up to them. Now, if they do obsess over and start interacting with this thing because I mentioned it, well, that's on them. Eventually, they're going to have to realize there's nothing important here, and then they'll move on, right? And from a sci-fi perspective, again, because just from as a player, like I don't know this stuff, and like if I make a roll that is a successful roll, whatever that roll is, and the game master is able to tell me this is what your character understands the situation to be, this is what and it's like scientific. It's going to make me feel smart. Like, oh yeah, this is what my character thinks. And and it's not gobbledygook. You know what I mean? So I'm not trying to make the case that you need to be Ben Gibson, NASA guy to run sci-fi games. But I do think that is a challenge for some people, myself included. So
some of it's going to be based on who your players are too. Another inspiration author I have is Marco Kloos, Kloos. He writes the Frontline series, which is a military sci-fi series. It's so funny to listen because I'm not a veteran, never served, but it's so funny. I like his sci-fi. His sci-fi is good. His military, so he's a military sci-fi guy. It's obvious he's never served. And I listened to a bunch of veterans like react to him, and they're like, and they were just like, oh, I hate those things. Like how, because and they were like, his sci-fi is good and solid. He's a good sci-fi writer with that. He can and he does, and as per comment, he is really good about the tension, like the craft of writing stuff too. But the details of military operation and how the soldiers were working, it didn't bug me. I mean, I knew enough to know this is not quite realistic to how soldiers are, but I trained soldiers for a long time. But he, like the veterans were just like, I cannot stand those books. Those are awful books, because they were experts in that.
Sure.
It didn't strike them as realistic. So some of it is, you probably don't want to run for a bunch of NASA guys. But you probably are fine to run for a bunch of other lawyers. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, like, so it sounds like your particular game is actually benefiting from the fact that you have like the which I would love to be a fly in the wall in that game, honestly, because it just sounds awesome. And if I did run for your group, it would be sci-fi horror, where I don't have to worry about that. I'm just going to kill you with some awful xenomorph, a one shot. But anyway, but yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, and I think that goes a long way towards like something I've always believed, just more broadly speaking about a game. The game is more than just the rule set. It's the players that are like participating in this shared, false reality that you're creating at the table. So, but
at the same time, I wouldn't be afraid of running a space opera game for a bunch of NASA engineers,
right?
At all. Like there's a real difference. And I would also let everybody know that, hey man, none of this is going to make sense. If you're keeping track, if you're doing the math.
I don't know. I've met some NASA guys. You would be fine on, they would not be persnickety about your orbital mechanics. But if you do not have the right, like age appropriate, if you don't have the right color lightsaber for Mara Jade, they will get all over you.
And that's the shit. See, and that's what I think, Matt, your game, when we talk about this, your game really, in my opinion, unless you have players who really want to get mired down in that, you know what I mean? Like we were talking about doing 2001 earlier. I think that'd be a boring game. If my players are always having to worry about the technical aspect of this and that and every little thing, I think that might be a boring game for most players. Those are things that can come up, sort of like puzzles in a dungeon, or I don't even know how I'd use them, because all my sci-fi games are pew, 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 pew.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing too. Like, I don't know if I would like a 2001 space, game, but to me, that would be so hard sci-fi that it would be really a lot like, wilderness survival, where you got to like really think about how you're going to do this thing. And for some players, especially like in the OSR, that's that level of like exploration and just trying to just get to the location is part of the fun itself. It's so it could be, if the mechanics were right, I guess maybe, but at the same time, though, I think you run into an issue. It's like one of the hallmarks of the OSR. It's not character skill, it's player skill. So if you have a bunch of lawyers hanging around at a table and you're like, okay, guys, you want to make a jump to Alpha Centauri, do the math, and they're like, what? And then you're running into some problems. So like, it's tricky, right? In that regard. And I think at some point you just have to have that suspension of disbelief. There's this thing called hyperspace, and that's how you go from one. We have warp drive. We have these like wormholes, and who cares how they work?
Mr. Gibson, who works for NASA, knows for a fact that somewhere down below in a basement somewhere, we do have a warp drive. Anyway, I'm just...
if they do, they don't tell me that.
That's classified.
You said JPL, and I wanted to start grilling you every conspiracy theory I've ever heard.
Put it this way: if they do that, they've forgotten it. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, I did do a very hard sci-fi one shot. I didn't run it. A friend of mine did. But it was set on a moon base, like on the far side of the moon, just a moon astronomy base. So it was, I mean, I think it was set in like 2030. So it was extremely recent, like very current
Sure.
tech. It was in Dread. And it was with an asteroid damaging the moon base, dealing with it. It was kind of, it was very focused. It was like Apollo 13 kind of a feeling. It was a really good session. I really enjoyed that, but I would not want to do a campaign set like that.
Right.
Like, so that was hard sci-fi. It was legit, real good, solid, hard sci-fi, but that's not like a campaign kind of thing. That's a really fun one shot. Like that was a fun, tense one shot. He did a brilliant job, and I would definitely play that again or run that, but it's not a campaign. That's a good one shot for that really hard sci-fi.
Well, and there's other elements that are not hard sci-fi that we also associate. The political. You guys brought up Babylon 5 a little while ago.
Death
Star
Angel
Trek.
Shadow is doing something
even
with
Star
that,
Wars at its most, and it has before we even saw Anakin, there was this political. It's this sort of post-war empire, and we can relate that to our history. So I've always found it funny that every alien race we bump into has some form of recognizable government, right? And that they are pretty much humans with different skin tones, maybe a lumpy thing on their head. How in your game are you using aliens? How do you handle the easiest thing to do is treat them like that, right? They're all logical, they're all emotional or whatever. What are you doing?
So that's really fun actually, because so going for another appendix in, I recommend Peter Watt's Blind Sight. He has it for free on his website. Is well worth checking out. It is a hard sci-fi, deep neurological stuff, like a fairly near future, and like with these completely alien, like actually alien aliens who don't even have sentience. They're hyper intelligent, but they do not have self-awareness. And just interacting with that's cool. That's also really good for like a one-off encounter. That would not be a great engagement. I have some aliens. Stars Without Number assumes its baseline setting assumes that there will be some aliens, but they will not be the majority. So it's not like a Planet of Hats. It's not like Star Trek or Star Wars where there's one everywhere. But I do have a few aliens, and I use them basically as small, subtle differences. I did have some blind sight aliens that were in one case, and that was nice and creepy. It was good for a single system, but I wouldn't want to interact with them all the time because they're just so weird and so alien. They become more of a force of nature at that point because you can't really negotiate. Whereas the psychic slugs that I mentioned, those are just banana slugs that have been monkeyed with by science to be somewhat telekinetic and telepathic. Those are great. So they definitely have some weirdnesses because they're slugs, and you can play up the animal aspect of that. But they're also people. They're recognizably people. And that's
Absolutely.
people want to play with people,
right? I mean, to keep them interesting, they kind of have to be. They have to be humans costume with differences.
Well, I wanted to kind of like jumping off that, like it sort of feels like Gary, you made an interesting point about it seems like these aliens you see in these shows are just different government structures that are working on this planet with these whatever. Ben, would you agree that like even in sci-fi, like aliens still represent similar tropes like they do in fantasy? Like the orcs is like a massive amount of aggression. Dwarves are like greedy and stoic. Elves are flighty and arrogant. like I think you mentioned like the Forerunner race could
Mhm.
be that kind of snooty. Would you say sci-fi, like whether you have a lot of aliens or not, they're still going to kind of fit these classic tropes?
Yeah, a lot of the time they will. Usually, if people are going to be interested in them, they're going to have to reflect something about humanity, because that's
Absolutely.
just that we tell stories about people,
Yep.
and people don't
Sure.
care about stories that aren't about people.
Yeah.
That's robots are another good one. We have a robot in the crew, which is great. She plays it. The character who plays it. That's the the nurse I was telling you about. She is a genius for playing her robot. The robot treats the rest of the crew like dogs. She gives them positive reinforcement and treats if they do things that are helpful.
I love that. That's
She's
great.
super friendly, very like blunt. She tries to be helpful and doesn't quite understand, but she understands positive reinforcement, doesn't understand how it goes. Makes her an incredibly charming, like she's a genius when she plays that robot. But that's because the fact that she's relatable is because humans anthropomorphize everything. Like if I, oh gosh, if I grab this mouse, I can say, hey, this is Mousy McMouseface. Hello, friends. This is my, and then I can start talking with him like he's a little personality. And people will immediately start personifying this mouse as a person. That's what people do. Like that's what humans do. Even though it's a mouse, now it's a little personality. Now it's looking at you. Like you just think of things. Like we look at even like an inanimate object. If I just name it, we'll start doing that. And so people do that with aliens. People do that with robots. People will do that with kind of anything they interact with. And so you kind of play into that.
True. Which is another reason why sometimes Star Wars isn't sci-fi, because robots are they have a sense of humor. God, dog it. It's kind of rough. Hey, I did want to ask you for this game, do you have a consistent party of players, or is this another big campaign with lots of players?
Oh yeah, like I said, this is the group. We've all known each other since high school or college. So we've been hanging out for 20 years. This group of me and the 5 players, we've been playing for a long time. We've known each other for a long, long time. So they're in different states. They're scattered all over the place, but we do this online, and this is our Thursday night gaming group. It's very stable. So that's where it is.
Real quick, Robert Stanton, thanks for stopping by, man. Have a good night.
Yeah, I hope everything feels better, man.
I was going to ask because I don't know how. I guess it would depend on how you handle space travel, and doing one-to-one time with a large group in a sci-fi setting might be great, but it might also be a lot to take on. I don't know.
I wouldn't. So the way I would do it if I had a large group is I would have a big ship. You would want to have a very big ship with a large crew, so that you have everybody kind of floating around, moving this way, and you would want to have people. So even if the adventure only has one set of people at a time, you would want there to be basically a command council, like a Discord or a group chat or whatever. All the players need to be deciding where you're going to go next, for whatever reason, or have an agreed captain. The captain, that's one thing we haven't talked about, but that's actually a huge dynamic in sci-fi that you don't get a lot in fantasy. The captain.
Yes.
That is something, I was going to say, I saw that in, so I've run some Starfinder. I actually played in the Starfinder Adventure Path as well for 2 years. So I was a player in that one. You often have a ship in sci-fi, and the natural thing is somebody has to be captain. Now, if you're most games are really good. Starfinder does this. Stars Without Numbers does this. Where in terms of game mechanics, for if starship combat happens or whatever, the captain's just a cheerleader squad. Like the captain is not, he's not the most important part of it in starship combat. He's not the most important part of it game mechanically. But what happens with social dynamics is whoever is going to be the captain, he kind of is going to be role playing the captain. And you need to have somebody who's the captain who's going to be diffident. Like that's something I would want a mature player to do. The captain stars in that number. He's great. He's been playing this kind of thing for a long time. He plays a captain that's very charismatic and leading, but the player himself always makes sure he's the last vote. Anytime there's a thing, he plays it. I'm consulting with the command crew. He is great. He's a wonderful player. In the Starfinder game I played in, we had a guy. He appointed himself captain. He was hilarious. He called himself. He was a rat man. Yosoki is what they called him, and he called himself Dart and Terabang. He was just a complete loon, and everybody paid attention to him about as much as it was like we were in. He was basically the cheerleader for the group, and he didn't do a lot of the decision making, and everybody considered him basically a mascot. He was the official captain, but you have to have a mature player to be captain. That's something that you don't see a lot in fantasy, but that's something to consider anytime you do a ships based sci-fi game.
That's actually a great point. Going back to my Alien RPG campaign that I ran, my good friend, I've known him for decades. We came up in the restaurant industry together, and he actually ran kitchens. So he's the guy with the Pepto-Bismol, and he ran the ship like he ran a kitchen. Like, he was pretty quiet. He let everyone do what they were hired to do. But when things went south, he'd start asking some hard questions, right? But when it came to combat, and the captain could do things to bolster the rest of the players, and I think that's actually great game design. It allows the players who are specialized in various parts of the ship to shine, and the captain is just there to, as you say, be a cheerleader. And I think I love that, and that's kind of how he ran it. And he really did. He was like a guy who's trying to keep his restaurant afloat. It was so funny. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's got to be someone, especially if you're doing a thing like I did, where you have bills to pay. You have to find the next job, like in Firefly. Move on to the next job, right? Keep flying, right? And he did it great. Like my buddy Dan, he was perfect, because and what was funny is he bitched about it initially. He's like, "You're gonna do what? I have a mortgage? What?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then it clicked after the first couple of sessions. He's like, "Oh, this is why we have a reason to keep going. There's none of this oh, is there a damsel to save? Blah, blah, blah." No, there's a job. And there's a job board, and you're going to go on this job. It was really good. And whenever there was any kind of indecision, he stepped in. It's like, "This is what we're doing." Why? Because I'm the captain. Let's go. He was like a Malcolm Reynolds in a weird sort of way. So, but I agree with you 100%. 100%.
Yeah, you want the Futurama thing. You want it to be a complete airhead as the captain. That's a good way of doing it too. If you want,
he wasn't. I wouldn't go that far. I
would say if you're doing the humorous version, that's what the guy in the Starfinder was doing. Or you can be somebody who's very quiet. But like I said, it takes somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah,
and that is kind of that's a player skill thing, not a game systems can only do so much because that's a social dynamic.
Yeah, there were definitely some players in that crew. Yeah, I would shudder to think if they had taken on the captain role. They just couldn't do it. They just wouldn't know what to do. But my buddy Dan, even I initially was I don't know, this campaign's gonna collapse. But then all of a sudden, I saw my friend playing the captain. I also saw juxtaposed over that the friend that I knew running a kitchen, and I'm like, yeah, he knows how to run a brigade. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Have you ever done any sort of, or does Stars with Number allow for sort of a space military type of campaign? Could you all be Starship Troopers or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you could definitely play that. There's the gear. So the combat system is very fast, and it's pretty lethal, which I think is good. Some people would like a puffier set. Shout out to GM Blackwall for Drop Trooper. Like that would be that's a good kind of like a more military phase. But Stars Without Number could absolutely do it if you're okay with high lethality. I would use a stable of characters if I was going to do that. But you could absolutely do a mil sci-fi with it. The Starship combat engine on it is really good. It's really fun. It's really dynamic. It's fast-paced, which is great. It doesn't do facing. It doesn't do the facing, the wooden ships and Iron Men board, like hex board that you get on some games, which, I mean, if you love it, that's great. But Starship combat takes forever in Starfinder, for example, because of that. But it does like a fast dynamic space battles, and then if you drop a bunch of ODSTs, you're going to have a very lethal and fun firefight. So you could absolutely run a good mil sci-fi campaign on it.
Well, one of the things about that is you don't have to deal with a lot of those questions, because here's your mission, go do it. Age of Rebellion, one of the 3 Fantasy Flight Star Wars books, was great with that. Because it was take out this base, go get the information, extract a spy. It was to run those, and because you knew the world so well, because it was an IP, it was just like, I guess this is what we're doing tonight. There was no planning. But I do imagine when you're creating, and I'm assuming you're creating your own setting, or you're using the tables from Stars Without Number. That's a question. When I start planning a setting, like I have an idea. I want this and that. You give up to the tables. Yes, no.
So it's a little both. So I'm actually using, so the Stars Without Number has a great initial setting, which is there was a huge galaxy spanning human empire that was hypertech. And then hundreds of years ago, a psychic scream just kind of broke down all the gates that were connecting all the worlds. And a lot of worlds went back into the Stone Age. Some went back down into like 20th century tech. A few held on to some tech. And so humanity is kind of a bunch of different sectors, a bunch of different places are kind of rebuilding, which to me was perfect because I want, like, that works for my galaxy setting. And then I had my own, like I said, the Federation and the Controllers, the 2 neighboring sectors. That's where I built my own. So I had that, that universe as the setting. I was happy with the basic. And then I very much made my own for what the individual sectors were. And the individual planets, I have my own overlay based on the story of the sectors. And then the tables, I'm modifying it. His tables are really good. So I work with the tables. It's not 100% one way or the other. If you wanted to just play it straight, you could have you can have really fun sectors. You don't have to have that kind of overarching idea. Right. If you just want to just load up a sector, you'd be doing great. And you'd have all kinds of stories that emerge. But that's just not what I already had something in mind. But the tables have been a great help for that too.
That's what I find with tables like that is when I have kind of a germ of an idea, it's good to roll on it and see, and it might spark something up. I'm not really, I don't think I've ever followed that kind of thing. Absolutely. When you're putting together your random D&D world and hexes, I don't think I've ever followed that completely. So
I think that would actually, for my style of play, I think that would be perfect. And again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record here, but Alien RPG has got some great mechanics. I love the panic, this, that, and the other thing. But my God, its parsec crawl rules suck. And so many people were telling me, just pick up Stars Without Number and substitute it. And I never did. And now I'm feeling like I should have. That campaign probably would have lasted a little longer than it did. But
I hate to tell you, but the sector generations is even in the free version.
It is
because he has a.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he has a free version that has reduced, and the free version has the sector generation stuff in it. He is Kevin Crawford's incredibly generous. Like he is if nobody talks about him, like we talk about all the controversial people, we talk about all this. He is an incredible gift to the hobby. If I can just fan out.
No, please do, because I do agree with you on that. Like I picked up Scarlet Heroes, and that was like his foray into solo gaming. And it was not for me. I'm not a solo gamer, okay? But my God, I was looking at that, and I'm just like, you know what I mean? You're just like blown away by like all the tables and like what they do for you. And why aren't people talking more about him? Hey, you know what, Gary? Let's see if we can get him on the show.
I mean, he doesn't interview with people. He doesn't. The thing is, he doesn't get in fights. He doesn't take any kind of political stance. He just sits down and colors. But man, the stuff he colors is great.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, when I was earlier this week, I went through videos, just looked Stars Without Number, just watched a few things, and I think I found one video where it was like Kevin Crawford breaks his silence. And it was, I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago, something like that. I don't blame him from staying away. I don't blame him, for any of that. Yeah, good for him. I'm glad he's avoiding all of that mess. But if you want to give me a mission, Matt, fuck it.
Let's do it. We should do it. And you know what?
But his whole body of work, the Cities Without Number, Worlds Without Number.
If we do it, well, let's sweeten the pot here. If we can get him on the show, Ben, we want you to be on the show too, because you're a fan.
Intelligent questions.
Yeah. So because we're idiots, we're gonna need someone smart to ask him questions. But
yeah, I was actually trying to grab down here in the cabinet. I don't have it available, but like there is an Echo Resounding. It's one of his older products, but it is a great like sandbox fantasy generator that has all kinds of like hexes. It's just like great for so I use Axe rules for my domain stuff.
Right.
But
sure.
For a lot of the keyword stuff and a lot of the items of interest, that Echo Resounding from Kevin Crawford is incredible. So yes, I will try to restrain myself from fangirling too much if you bring him on, because he is awesome. I love his stuff.
I have no idea how to even start. We'll talk about it after the show. You are the one who drank too much. My second that I brought to the table was just a Coke. You have impossible missions for me now.
What? Me? Are you talking to me?
Yeah, you.
Talking to me?
So how have you planned? So it sounds, you said it's a directed sandbox. Is there an ending? Like, is there a place where it could be wrapped up, or is it something you just plan on continuing?
Oh yeah. If they defeat the controller, that's an easy end. If they somehow don't defeat the controller, but find a way of like negotiating a salvation for the Federation, that's an end. If they all TPK at any point, that's an end. Although thanks to having a troop, thanks to having a ship, if the command crew all die, they all have backups, which is a really good way of doing it. I guess that's one sci-fi side that we haven't talked about. You just have to accept. Starship combat is really dangerous.
It is.
I mean, there's things like escape pods or escape teleporters or whatever, but that's a pretty big game over.
Absolutely.
There's danger.
Everybody's in it. One bad move, you're kind of screwed. I think that's why a lot of these battles are running battles, right? You're trying to just defend your Star Wars, calculating the whatever to hyperdrive, and you just got to dodge lasers until the calculations are in and you can take off. Because it is deadly, and I have TPK'd guys all in the same, and that can happen. I was telling you, Matt, earlier, I was thinking about this Tuesday night game we're running, this Easy D6 game and vehicle combat, and I just started thinking about car crashes. Like that'll kill the game, right? You know what I mean? Like a bad car crash, you guys are fucked. Vehicles are an odd thing for RPGs, and sci-fi has to do vehicles. You gotta do ships. You gotta do that stuff.
Yeah, I want to get in on the ship thing in just a minute here, but we got a super chat from Chance Dale, the Chancellor DM. Met this guy multiple times at various cons. Great dude. $5. Thanks, man. Totally appreciate it. Psychic powers are OP. Do you use them in your game? The psychics absolutely dominated when I played in a Stars Without Number game, ruined it for me.
So, not only do I have a psychic in the party, he is a precog, which, if you want to do a fantasy version, it's a divination wizard. He sees glimpses of the future, which is super challenging because what they have started doing is scanning systems before they go in. They will see, if we jump in here, what is it going to look like when we emerge from hyperspace? And my answer for that is the same as my answer for divination magic. Let it happen, because they have done that, and it has helped their planning a ton. It has saved them from some TPKs because they know what's coming and they could plan ahead. Where they're going right now, they're actually going to be hailing a resistance movement on the planet in the system, and they're going to have the frequency for that resistance movement because they've scanned it beforehand. They've done that divination. It helps that the player is he's super reasonable. He's a very veteran player, so he knows how things run. So he's not trying to be a show stealer, and psychics are not great in combat. They have all kinds of fun things, but Stars Without Number psychics, even telekinetics, even the teleporters, they are not amazing combatants. So they really do not shine in combat. They have a sucky hit die. They have miserable attack bonuses. They're not really good at a lot of things when it comes to combat side. So he doesn't shine at all there. And I let him divine things, but there's also limitations. You just have to think of it. So I tell him, if you want to scan when you emerge from Spike, which is their hyperspace, when you emerge from Spike, you know that point in time, you know exactly when that's going to happen. Yes, you can scan that. If you want to scan something, he's like, so what if we do this, this, and this? I was like, no, you can't divine that, because I was like, or I will say there's a chance you can divine that, because, I'll make him do rolls, because you can actually roll against your psychic powers in the game. I was like, you have to do a really good roll for that one, because that's a lot of different futures you're picking from. And as soon as you emerge from the system, there's a lot of futures that happen. All those futures are a kaleidoscope. You've got to pick that one. So it's going to be hard, but it is something that's powerful, but I didn't find it dominating because I guess partly because the rest of the crew is just a bunch of strong personalities. So this might be just because the people who pick it. This is something I noticed just generally running things. Wizards, and maybe you guys can disagree, but I think wizards are kind of the personalities who choose to play a wizard are going to be kind of a dominant personality at a game table, because they like having the control of they like having control of it. They like having all the buttons to push. They like having all the spells. So if they are not all of them, but certain personalities are going to be, certain personalities that pick wizards are going to be kind of dominant no matter what, just because they're the kind of person who picks a wizard or psychic.
Yeah.
Jedi.
It's
an issue.
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on like the system, but up until I discovered Lamentations of the Flame Princess, I was always the guy playing the fighter, and I would use the game mechanics to optimize my fighter and be the guy because throwing fireballs and this, that, and the other thing never really appealed to me, because a lot of the times it was too mechanical. If you cast fireball, you get X number of squares, and it does 5d. That never interested me. Lamentations of the Flame Princess took magic to an art form, literally describe it as an art form. This is your art. That's why all magic users are chaotic. You can't be a lawful or neutral magic. You are chaos. You are and you are defying reality. And all of a sudden, magic users are awesome to me, because they are this unique thing. And I think a good magic user is going to kind of push the envelope of the game world's mechanics, because that's what you should be doing. You're defying reality. And I think in a sci-fi setting, but if you introduce psychics, you're kind of introducing space wizards. I don't think it's to that level though, because it's still sci-fi. So there's got to be a scientific explanation for the psionic ability, right? So, how do I want to put this? I agree with you. Like you're gonna have like this like character or a player who wants to sort of dominate and have that sort of, I don't know, control maybe over what's happening. But
and not even
it's
on
just,
purpose.
yeah, no,
always.
I don't
Yeah.
think they're necessarily like they're trying to screw with you. I'm not trying to say that at all, but it does attract a certain player, right? I just thought I've just never in my experience, in my limited experience with sci-fi, people playing psionics or whatever space wizards have never been game breaking. It where they've been game breaking is actually in fantasy, because they're trying to find a way to make that fireball work,
I
right?
will say,
So I don't know.
in every Star Wars game from D6 to the Fantasy Flights game, which I'm such a fan of. I'm one of three. The Jedi, the Space Wizards, they are overpowered. I mean, they just are. You know, there's die rolls you can make in some of those games where you have dudes like crushing starships or you're slinging them. You know, it never works out that way. There's never enough points, but theoretically you could do it. And I always just saw it like a balance. It's a sci-fi game. Everybody's fighting the same shit. I never really saw it as that big of a thing. Now, I will say, Ben, you're correct. The people who really get into that kind of stuff, it's not that their personality is even that dominant all the time, but they're the gamers. They want to, twist all the knobs and push all the buttons. So that can weigh things down. But as far as dominating the game, like I don't know that is the fault of the system. Whatever it is you're playing, it may just be that you've got a couple wallflower players, you've got a real dynamic personality over here, and you've got a GM who's just oblivious, or who just doesn't know how to make it work. But I don't necessarily think that the Space Wizard kills. It has the potential to, but it doesn't have to kill every game. And I think it's actually valuable. One of the things I always liked about space opera and the space wizards that you find there is that every problem seems to be solved with, it's sci-fi. So you solve all your problems with technology basically, or different tools. And we can kind of strip the hero's journey and the tension and all of that stuff from it, because we're trying to be so in this mold of, you're in a spaceship and the engine's here and this is here. Man, I don't know. It maybe it's just how you play your game, but if it gets too technical, you're gonna lose something. I like the Jedi. I like the space wizards.
but
it gives it a little oomph.
Yeah, I was kind of talking over you. I'm sorry.
No worries.
I think the difference between the space wizard Jedi and the wizard from fantasy is the Jedi is actually subordinate to science. It's just like this weird mystical thing we don't fully understand. Because if you look at the Star Wars movies, like not including some of the bullshit that came out, like the originals, like they had something mystical about them that gave everybody an edge, but it didn't really dominate. Like Lamentations of the Flame Princess wizard could literally destroy your campaign, right?
Truth.
So there is like this like demarcation. So like I think a sci-fi game that's going to include space wizards, I think should take that into consideration. Like there's a scientific component to it. It's just it's unknown. We don't fully understand it, and it's not in. It doesn't give that amount of. How do I want to put it?
Sounds to me like you're making an argument for midi-chlorians. I gotta go pee. I'll be right back.
Oh, and you're walking away, you mother. No, that's not the argument I'm trying to make. I'm just trying. It's a mechanical argument I was trying to
Yeah.
make.
It looks, yeah, I wanted to highlight Death Angel's comment. It's a little further up, but it sounds like he also has that as a GM who plays Wizards. Who puts there?
Is this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I notice a lot of GMs do play Wizards and Sorcerers when they get the chance to play because they like fiddling with the little bits.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, what I'm trying to say is that I think the Space Wizards actually shouldn't be as powerful as the Fantasy Wizards. Really, what I'm trying to argue, because there's sort of like an unknown scientific element to it, which, like you were talking about, the discovery, the advancement of humanity. Like, what does this mean? We don't know. We're just unlocking our potential, which I think is great, and I think that is like a clear theme with space exploration. And that goes back to the 60s, like when we landed on the moon. Look at humanity's potential, right? So yeah, I think Space Wizards shouldn't be as powerful as fantasy magic users, but I think it's totally cool to have them in your game, in your sci-fi game.
Yeah, I mean, I love Stars Without Numbers psychics because it's half of it's a problem. It's MES. It's parts of your brain that is being torched every time you use your powers, and if you overuse it, you'll have permanent stat damage. Which our psychic has done that a few times, and if you use it too much, then you will become a feral. Like a feral psychic under the control of the GM who's completely mad. And that's really good.
Oh shit. And Gary left for this conversation. Oh, he's back. Oh, so what? Well, Gary, can you hear me? I want to make sure you can hear me for this. So what you're saying, Ben? Oh, so what you're saying, Ben, is that Stars Without Number contemplates the game master taking control of a player character when he's possessed?
Well, in that case, it's actually you lose the character for good. If you torch it, you're done.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm listening. I'm all ears.
No, I will say so the original rubric, right? Which is your fantasy sucks if your wizard's problem could be overcome by a intelligent homeless man with a shotgun.
Yeah.
If that
Rutger Hauer, hobo with a shotgun.
Yes. Like if a hobo with a shotgun is more powerful than a lot of this. And that's why I don't feel Stars Without Numbers psychics are too powerful, because I feel like a smart hobo with a shotgun has a pretty good chance of overcoming any Stars Without Number psychic. And definitely would not overcome a high level D&D wizard. I definitely would not. So I feel like that's reasonable. I don't feel like that broke everything, but I suspect it probably has something to do with Chance's players, as well as just less because powerful players who dominate everything are going to be dominating everything.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Even if they have like just a blank all tens, doesn't have any skills and everything, if they're the kind of person who dominates everything and other people let them dominate, then that's going to happen just as a part of running the game.
Sure.
Yeah, and that goes into a whole other deeper thing about curating your party. Don't invite just everybody to your game.
Yeah.
Matt, was that you?
Yes, I'll be back.
All
right. No worries.
I know Matt was talking shit when I left, but that's all right.
Oh, I'm going to keep talking shit.
I'm a better person.
Don't lie. Don't lie.
I'm not going to do that to him. So, man, I haven't run a sci-fi game in a while. And it is a lot of fun. And I think, I thought when we were first talking about this was going to be another one of those big one-to-one time. You have like 30 players or something like that. Because I just thought that would be really hard, if not impossible.
I would have to use a lot of communication. Actually, that's something we didn't cover yet, but that's another kind of challenge is everybody has instant communication. The fact that everybody has a cell phone is a huge difference for sci-fi gaming. Like that's a pretty high
Absolutely.
level spell in D&D, the ability to
It
communicate with your
it
party.
is, and that's why I was wanting to do I'm getting ready to start a modern supernatural game, but I set it in
Mhm.
77.
That makes
Well
sense.
before any kind of mobile phones or, it's a thought maybe to some people. But that is a big thing. And that, you were talking about you use a big ship and you split the party and they're probably communicating back and forth. Um, yeah, God, I didn't even that's something I haven't thought about a ton because even in my sci-fi games, most of my players still are in that never split the party mindset.
Hmm.
Like don't but sci-fi you should, and especially in
Yeah,
these big action adventures, you should split the party.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Star Trek, they had a different away team every single time. And that's not a problem if you have a big enough crew so that people can be playing the red shirts.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, we've been playing for so long. All of the red shirts have their own personalities too. They all are their own characters. They all have their own things. They're not as fully fleshed out as the main PCs,
Right.
but all of them have, all of them have different hobbies. All of them have different tendencies and quirks. All of them have different. One of them would develop psychic powers in a really rough spike drill. Like
Mm-hmm.
all of those crew, all the lower decks crew, have a lot of fun stuff that's just developed over time, and that's why nobody cares if we split up. If we're splitting the party, that's fine. That just means, okay, I'm gonna play the cook. I'm gonna play Oscar the cook, and I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
play Sarah the secondary engineer, and I'm gonna play Bud the cargo guy as we accompany the captain and the security officer down to the planet. Like that's not a problem. That splitting the party is no problem at all if you have a ensemble.
I think that's exactly how I would run because all the sci-fi game, I mean, 99% of them have all been Star Wars. And then there
Mhm.
was like a little bit of, Star Frontiers when I was a kid. And I've told people this before. We used Marvel to do everything. So, because it had the rules on how to build stuff. So we had full on like sci-fi, comic book sci-fi, games. Um, and I've never run a big crew on a big ship. I've never done a sort of Star Trek kind of thing. So that's exactly how I would do it. And you would split the party, and people would be red shirts, and you'd have God. That sounds like fun.
Oh, it's
You
so
could
much fun.
probably even like borrow from the Bro SR, right? And have your patron level guys
Mhm.
be like the command crew, and they're doing all the other things. And then when they need an away team, that's when you have your adventure level guys
Yeah,
go out. I don't. That would take a little bit more finessing, but I'm just saying. I'm
yeah.
just
I'm not looking to do that. I
spitballing here.
like
But
it when Kurt goes planet side and kicks ass, or you know what I mean. Like that's
double
the
fist
good
a guy
shit.
and throw
Or
him on the
he's
airlock. Yeah,
yeah, or turns the corner and there's the beautiful woman who, of course, loves the
and
shack.
she's got green skin,
Mhm.
And huge
red hair.
knockers.
Yes.
Do you
Um.
remember back in the day when Playboy used to publish sci-fi novels? There
No.
was like a play. Oh my god! So this uncle that got me into gaming used to have a key to the Playboy Club in Chicago, like back in the day, like when it was some for real stuff. And they had these sci-fi novels. If you can find them, go get them. Don't tell anybody that you've read them, but they are fun. Anyway, go on.
Well, we were talking about like the away team and all that stuff, and one of the things that obviously in a sci-fi game is the ship. And one of the things I've been noticing in people like talking about the ship, it's almost like a character unto itself. Um, I guess my question to you is like, do you see the ship as like sort of like this extra character? Like, is this something that should have its own history, its own sort of special stats or whatever? Like, how do you approach the ship?
Oh, that's actually a huge one. And yes, your ship needs to have all kinds of personality. The ship they call is Le Renard. It's for the fox. They have a different name every system they go into because they have a sensor mask.
Sure, sure.
But the ship is a huge part of it. I actually have a map that I use for the ship. I actually use the map that because it seemed like a pity to waste it just once. So for my campaign, I used the map that was in my module. that you linked earlier, the Awaken the Night Sky. That's a Starfinder module that modifies pretty well for a lot of different things. But I have a very beautiful map. I write good dungeons with regards to like design, but I'm never going to claim my cartography lines are beautiful. Um, I got I got a guy who did the cartography, and it's just gorgeous. So in that module, there's a gorgeous 3-decker ship. It's 3 decks. It has like about 60 something different like rooms basically as it goes through there. That's what they use as their main ship, so they can move around in it. They can have boarding actions in it. They hang out. They have a mess hall. They take time. Anytime they're in Spike, which is again their hyperspace thing, sometimes they will just do. Sometimes they'll just have a little downbeat session where they just talk to the crew and they have little adventures. They'll have. I notice sometimes when they need a palate cleanser, I'll let them just goof off a little bit while they're in Spike. I'll let them just talk to each other and do all that when they just need a little downbeat because it's been hyper tense and it's been very dangerous. I've really enjoyed having that ship as a personality, and they really love having that ship. They own it. You should give them a map. You should give them a map for the ship. You should give them a picture. They should just embrace it. They should be able to say, "This is my home." And it's that whole the whole domain thing. All the players care way more when it's their castle.
Right.
Well, it's even more that when it's their ship, because it gets to move with them and have adventures with them. And they love to upgrade it. We barely talked about that, but that's the other big thing about sci-fi, and that's why leveling matters very little. The biggest deal is gear.
Yeah.
In sci-fi, the biggest way you advance is gear. And although they've gotten new armor, they've gotten new weapons, the biggest thing they get excited with is when they upgrade their ship. They love upgrading that ship. They love getting new fun stuff in that ship, and because it's their home and it's useful. And they have a character sheet for Le Renard. They have the power draws. They know what goes on in there. They know what's in the cargo at all times. They just have a spreadsheet that one of the guys runs. You don't have to do that, but they just love having stuff available. They love messing around in that ship, and that's a huge part of the personality.
Yeah, I just again, my game master for the hostile game I'm in is in chat. Eric, our ship is called the Ticket to Midnight, and it's become one of my favorite ships because, and I want to tell this story real quick. I had my own Kobayashi Maru thing happen many sessions ago. Our ship is designed for speed and stealth. It has no defensive capabilities. Well, we ended up pissing off some sort of like criminal cartel. And as we're trying to leave a planet, their ship shows up and we're like, okay, what do we do? So we loaded up a bunch of like C4 and like explosive material onto a escape pod. And what we did was, as the enemy ship came up, we actually turned towards it as fast as we could, and then last minute like just jerk away to create enough force to just shoot this like escape pod loaded with C4 towards it. It totally fucking worked. Blew up, took out the freaking like command crew, and then in which case we stopped, we went parallel, and then boarded the ship and took it and then stripped it of all its weapons and gear. And I fucking love that ship. Eric, you've been doing a great job with that campaign, by the way, brother. I literally, like, I felt like Captain Kirk biting into the apple going, I don't believe in impossible odds, or whatever he says, right? Like there's, I don't believe in him, in failure. Like, and we did it, you know what I mean? So
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, it was great. It was great. And you're right. Like the players do, that ship is their home, and if they can build upon it and improve it, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I was going to say earlier that I had been reading, and this is going to sound unrelated, but it's not. I was reading Boston the other day, and in some of the Free League books, you're always given a base, right?
Yep.
You have this base of operations. And I feel like that's a real departure from standard role-playing games, because typically you're like the wandering hero, and the village you're in, you just happen to come upon a level 1 or whatever. But when you give the players from the outset a ship, a base, or something that they can already start building on, something that they can, especially when, when you have games like that, almost all of those rule sets allow for customization. And as soon as they figure out there's dials, it is a really great thing. And as far as ships becoming characters, I think almost any sci-fi you play, as events go on, that character is going to be emergent. It's not going to be like you have to sit down and be like, oh, well, this ship is this or this ship is that. No, it's going to break down at the wrong times.
Yep.
It's going to perform when it shouldn't, and those are the kind of things that, emergent, I guess, is a good word. But yeah, the ship is a big part of it. And the base, I'm starting to incorporate that into a couple other gaming ideas I have, because it does it. Man, when you give the players somewhere to have their characters have some kind of roots
Yes.
or whatever, and those connections grow, as opposed to just always having the guest star of the week, like in an old, action show or whatever. It builds. It's just great. So
Yeah, like in just kind of turning to fantasy on that point, in my Gods of the Forbidden North game that I'm running with my in-person gaming crew, they've decided to essentially build a mercenary company, and it's called the Iron Price, right? So they're hiring people and they're going out on missions. And just recently, due to our schedules, we play once a month on average, but I'm using 1-to-1 time. And I said, guys, if you want to jump online and run something real quick, let me know. Well, after months, someone actually bit. And so we did the whole thing, and it's been great. But like, it's created this thing that they're building and that they're managing. And it's bigger than just their stupid little character that like they may or not be happy with because they didn't roll the stats they wanted, right?
Mhm.
But it's bigger than them, and they're part of something, and it's giving them a sense of identity and a sense of purpose. And I think this the spaceship does that in spades,
Yeah, and you still get to be the wandering adventurer
exactly.
every
Right.
week, showing up at a new place, like Kane and Kung Fu. So yeah, look, I love sci-fi games, and I think one of the only reasons I haven't been knee deep in one recently is because which one am I going to use? Everybody right now, everybody wants to swing swords or actually play Barrows and Borderlands.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
The new hotness. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it, man.
No, it's a great game.
I'm gonna try to get in the game next week.
Hell,
But
you know what? The way Matt plays his games and runs his games, if you showed up with a starship, he'd figure out how to make it work. So
Right. I
Right.
mean, that's Expedition to the Barrier Peak stuff right there.
yeah, exactly.
Yep,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
Gary, you
Matt-
did hit one of them though. Like you did hit one issue with sci-fi gaming.
Mhm.
Having published for both fantasy and sci-fi, more people are interested in playing fantasy than sci-fi.
Yep.
Yep.
No,
I
that's true
have
across the
I have
board.
the numbers. I have the numbers in my drive-through RPG, like in
Yeah.
my sales and interest numbers. I have in my little publisher thing. I mean, it's not a problem. It's just how what people relate to. More people want to play fantasy than sci-fi. Like that's just the
Well,
truth.
it is. It always has been. And what I have found is that regardless, like when you're ready to let go of fantasy or you're ready to move away from fantasy for a while, like I know I'm going to go back to rolling D20s and people are going to be killing orcs, at some point this year, next year, whatever. But when you do get your gaming crew away from that and you do something different, I mean, I remember, fuck, what was that game? I can't believe I'm blanking on it. Everybody played it. Shadowrun came out. That was,
Yeah.
different enough that we were all there. Star Wars D6. More once you get a group to kind of come out of that fantasy sort of bubble, everybody tends to have a good time. But then the GM becomes like a salesman. It's like you're pitching a movie to people, right? I
Yep.
got an idea for a game, guys. I want to kill orcs.
Yeah. Yeah.
You never
Yeah.
know. But when you do find that crew that's excited about it, they can be the best games, because a lot of times you'll find players like you who maybe fantasy's not their jam. maybe they do want to try these new things, and you get 3 to 5 guys who have really want to get out of fantasy and really want to play something different. You're gonna have a great game.
Just so we're clear, I love fantasy too. I'm not a, I'm
Oh
not a
yeah,
not side. Yeah, like I love it. I'm very happy playing fantasy too.
I'm
Like I
on.
love having both.
Yeah, I'm fairly public in that fantasy is not my favorite genre of storytelling, which I think is fair, right? I can have different favorites.
Oh yeah, no, well, yeah, well, welcome to the second watch where we have our own opinions.
Yeah.
We're not an echo chamber.
But that being
Yeah.
said, it is harder to find players, and I do understand why publishers aren't really, pushing sci-fi products out there because
Yeah.
they don't sell.
And I find that sci-fi that does sell is usually attached to some IP. Like, I love Free League, so what I'm about to say is not a knock on them, but they got the Blade Runner IP. I bought it. Not impressed. I'm just not impressed. I'm like, yeah, okay. Aside from the fact that, oh my god, I might be a replicant or not, it's just a crime game. Like, you know what I mean. But they also have the IP for Alien, and they've done a really great job with that. So, I think at the end of the day, if you got some players that are interested in like branching out beyond sci-fi, there's some stuff out there, and I think if you read the room, you'll find the system that fits. If you got guys that want sci-fi but they really like their space elves, like run Star Wars, right? Run Star Wars. If you got guys that are really into simulationist type games, find something like The Expanse, maybe Stars Without Numbers. You know what I mean? Like at that point, you're going to have to be discerning with the game mechanics you're choosing. So, but yeah. Anyway,
And if you
Well,
love
I like
failure,
it.
then any of the Warhammer.
yeah. If you like veiled Catholic theology with like angels of death and shit, go Warhammer 40K. I love Warhammer 40K.
I just mean the dadgum systems with their D100 systems are so failure prone. I mean,
yeah.
Mechanics are so failure prone.
Yeah. I'm used to playing the actual war game, so and I just love the background. It's just so biblical.
Yeah.
And it just invites like all this drama. And if they could just get a good system for like
but Dark Heresy or Rogue Trader, that crap is so failure prone. I would never never be interested in playing that.
Real quick, before we leave, we may have a couple players who are like, I want to give this sci-fi shit a try. I think the easiest way to do that is to, if you've never played a sci-fi role-playing game before, is to probably grab a game that has an IP you're familiar with.
I agree with that.
I just think that makes things easier. It might not always be the best game, but I'm curious, Ben, you've been gaming for a long time. Are there any Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever the IP is kind of game that you would recommend?
For tabletop specifically?
For tabletop, yes, sir.
I don't know if you like. So it's not technically Star Trek, but it was designed to avoid Paramount's lawyers. There's a game called Starships and Spacemen, which is 100% TOS Star Trek. It's designed for that 100%. It's just all the Federation, anything that is IP has been stripped out of it.
Right.
Sure.
But you can play a perfect, and is I think the best of the Star Trek games that have been released, because it's clear they were changing a single name like this just a little bit to just avoid IP. But that is such a Star Trek game. If you want a Star Trek game, Starships and Spacemen is a very good Star Trek kind of game if they're familiar with that. I mean, Star Wars, like
I would say, well, I would say D6 is the best of them, but it's hard to recommend that because you can find it on the internet for free. It's not against the law. It's out there. So you're not pirating, but it's just the way it's laid out and written. I think if I were to hand that to newer, they just didn't have that stuff.
Right.
I didn't care for D20 Star Wars because I just didn't like it. And then the Fantasy Flight Star Wars, I really like, but there's a lot of people adverse to it because I don't want to use special dice, and it's not for everybody. It's definitely not. You have to have active players who want to jump in and tell a story and all that. And if they don't, you're fine.
Gary's 100% correct with what he just said. The Star Wars D6 West End game system is great. I've played it a lot back in the day. It was a lot of fun. The funky dice of West End, or Fantasy Flight, is worth looking into, especially if you can find someone like Gary. Gary, I'm about to stroke your ego.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome. Years ago, a buddy of mine, that same Pepto Bismol, player of mine, he wanted to run Star Wars, and we picked up Fantasy Flight, and it was the worst fucking game session of my life. He had no idea how to read the dice, we made characters, and it was fucking awful, and we were like, this game sucks, and I never looked at it. Fast forward 10 years, it's COVID. I'm chilling on Professor Dungeon Master's Facebook page, and this random dude named Gary says, anybody want to start a podcast?
I was so bored.
and I said sure, and then we started talking, and then we started playing a game. He's like, I'm gonna play Fantasy Flight, and I'm like, this fucking game sucks. What are you, some filthy story gamer? And Gary ran one of the best fucking story games I've ever been in. So if you really are into Star Wars, read that carefully and really understand it, because I think Gary, stop. I really think those mechanics fit the milieu very well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that being said, if you were to ask me, hey, Matt, what sci-fi game would you run? If you're gonna run hard fantasy, I'd actually recommend The Expanse. It's using the same AEG or AGE, system that Dragon Age uses. It's simple. All the hard science is just like kind of built into the mechanics, and so you don't have to think too hard. Why I like it. So I'd recommend that. But if you're just going for horror, like honestly, Free League's Alien RPG, again, they give you all the techno babble, so you don't have to worry about it when you're rolling your dice. So those would be my recommendations. But Gary, you're the reason why I think Fantasy Flight is worth looking into. End of story.
What I was gonna say is that I would not. I've tried to read that section any number of times, and it just makes me dizzy and want to give up. So I was really fortunate that I had somebody sit down and say, "Hey, these are good dice. These are bad dice." And that was, count the difference. That's really all it is. But they take 10 pages and just make it the most confusing thing in the world. So, but yeah, I don't know. I heard that one of the later Star Trek games was okay, but I never bought it. I can't buy every game that I hear is cool. There was, oh man, I can't remember the title of it now. There are good sci-fi games out there. Do you, just out of curiosity, Ben, do you find with Stars Without Number, does the D20, because it is a D20 system, correct? It's basically...
It's not a strict D20, because D20 is in combat where everything's nice and swingy. The skills are 2d6.
Okay.
Which I actually think, I think that's good for a sci-fi game.
Oh,
because because you're playing something. You want that bell curve when you're doing skills in a modern game.
That's very Traveler.
Yes, it's very Traveler. And like when the combat, everything's all swingy, it being D20 for combat, perfect. Mm-hmm. But when it's skills, it's actually a 2d6 like Traveler. I told you, like, it's a love letter to Traveler, and I think that works out really well.
I might have to buy this game.
Oh, dude, check it out. Like, Stars Without Number is good. I'm a big fan of it.
Matt, I'm telling you, the free version gives you, it's a complete game.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to spend whatever drive-thru is charging for the physical copy. You should. I mean, if you really want to, go get it.
It's also beautiful.
Yeah, and it's also beautiful. Doesn't he do that other thing with his art where there's a lot of art that he's released that he allows people to use?
Yeah,
So
he's
if you're,
incredibly open source. Yeah.
that guy, I've never heard anybody say his name and go, "Rah, this guy." You know,
Right.
everybody's like, "Oh wow." So yeah, go check him out. I think I have in PDF. I've got is it Worlds Without Number is the fantasy one?
Yeah.
That's got some great table. I mean, even if you're not using the system, it's just like any other role-playing game. There's so much to steal in the tables and everything else. They're really good.
Yeah.
So, well, man, I don't know that we really accomplished anything except you probably run better sci-fi games than us, and you have inspired me. I do think,
hands down.
I do think the way to go, though, I think you've got something. I think there's something there to having the large ship as opposed to having the little Serenity, Millennium Falcon,
Right.
whatever. That's a game changer.
No, that's a huge deal. I would hate the takeaway being like you can't run one, because I really think everybody everybody should try it at least. It's definitely worth trying, and get the right group of players and you'll do it. I mean, there's all kinds of different sci-fi directions you can go. You can try to just do it constrained and small at first, and then see how it goes. Run a module. I don't just say that because I've published one, but also some of the old Traveler adventures are really good. Like the Traveler, just look for the Traveler series adventures. Some of those are really good, actually, and they're very self-contained. They do good one-shot kind of stuff. So it's definitely worth checking out those.
Has anybody ever done to Traveler? Has anybody ever given Traveler like the OSE treatment where it is Traveler, but it's
not that I'm aware of.
You know, it's not real obtuse. Just curious.
Yeah, it's still too live of an IP for that to happen, I think.
Yeah. I ordered a reprint and Mark Miller actually signed it. So
awesome.
It's alive and well, but
I should check that out.
Well, Ben, we've talked a lot and we've picked your brain about sci-fi stuff. Is there anything we didn't talk about that you were hoping to mention?
Well, I mean, I was just going to say, I think we're pretty good on the sci-fi. I mean, there's still more stuff, but you could go shows and shows and shows of that. But I am running a contest right now, if people should do that. And I'm expecting, you have promised me at Adventure Site.
I have a map that I'm actually going to revise. But yes.
I thought you were pointing at me. Holy shit.
No, Matt has. So I'm running the Adventure Site Contest 3, which it's running from November 1st through January 1st, where people send in an adventure site. It is generally it's going to be written for old school D&D-ish. So people asked, how close, and he's like retro clones. I said Axe is kind of like on the outer edge of acceptable, and Shadow Dark is a little bit too far for how like close to retro clone it is. But the point is to build an adventure site. So 2 pages of content, and then with a page or 2 of maps. Just something that you can bump along if you're in a city crawl, if you're in a hex crawl, someplace that's full of adventure where you can just it's aimed for about a session. It's something that you like to sprinkle onto the map or sprinkle into the city. Or a couple of people have actually input subsections that are stumbled into a mega dungeon, like a little side area of a mega dungeon. So kind of its own little separate area. But the Adventure Site Contest, the big deal is the top 8 are going to be published in a compilation that's released for free. But all authors have all rights to their work. I don't claim any rights to anybody. The top 2 winners, the top 2 are actually going to get a free adventure from Malrex, Merciless Merchants, who kind of sponsors our contest. And the number 1 person gets glory, of course, and gets to be called the king of the adventure sites. But what I promise for everybody, it's me and 5 judges. Now, not all 5 judges have signed up to review in depth every single adventure, but I have. I review a lot on my blog. I review a lot of adventures. A lot of them are crap. Some of them are good. I liked yours, Mattias, the one that you then took down.
Thank you.
But I've promised to give a detailed review and like feedback for every single person who puts in an adventure site. And it's been super exciting. Like people who have gotten, this is the first time they've ever put down something, they've ever tried to publish anything. They're like, holy crap, you can actually, like, this is something I can do. I was like, yeah, heck yeah. I'm Creative Commonsing this crap so that with attribution, so everybody has the right. I've had some people who've done it and then have been like, I want to expand this and make this my own project. That's great. That's fine. There's people who are now publishing RPG adventures who got started in that. And there's other people who just, I want to do this for fun. I had this fun adventure site. I had this tower that was in a lake that I ran for my players and I wanted to see if it works. Well, that was actually the winner last time. A guy who, another Matthew, who had just a wizard's tower in a lake. It was just so beautifully just set up as an adventure site. There was all this exploration, all this discovery, great treasure, great monsters, great interactions. And so he won. And he was like, I've never done this before in my life. I've never tried this before. I was like, yeah, well, you did a good job. And there's other people who did, who weren't successful in that, but I gave them feedback and they were able to see, because I'm not the only one who reviews. BX Black Razor, JB, he is going to be on his blog, going to be posting reviews. He's pretty harsh, but he is honest as well. Owen Edwards, who's like a booktuber guy, but he also does RPG reviews. He does detailed reviews. So all of us judges, not only are we going to be ranking them, we're also going to be reviewing all these to give feedback for people who are trying their hand at adventure siting. The answer to Warped Plots' question, Maps submitted. I like Square Grid often, but the biggest deal for Maps is make sure you have a scale. Because what is important is this is a site. This is a physical location. Like start with a physical location and then let the adventure flow from that. You can do like theater of the mind. We're going to have these, what is the Alexandrian thing? These node-based adventures, blah. You can do that. That's not what this is. This is about making adventure sites that are going to be run at the table. You should be able to put something in there that I can plop down in front of 3 to 6 slightly drunk, over caffeinated people, and we'd have a great time. Like that's kind of the focus. It's always a focus on usability, and all of us are going to be judging. We're not going to be art contest judging, which is what One Page Dungeon is now. One Page Dungeon is an art contest now. They make beautiful, gorgeous things that are not good gameplay. It's all about let's have fun playing. And so that's kind of what the contest is.
And I just want to like throw in like if you haven't gone to Coldlight Press and Ben's blog, please check it out. Links are in the description. Ben, I thank you for reviewing. You had some very you have complimentary things to say about my game adventure that I wrote. The reason why I took it down is because I'm actually expanding on it. It's a full-fledged adventure. It's going to be in a Shadow Dark anthology I'm about to produce, hopefully in the next 30 days. I'm waiting on my editor and artist, but it's going to be called The Living Darkness. The particular adventure is called Return of the White Wizard. A lot of what Ben actually said, I took into consideration as I was revamping it. Like, Ben's the real deal. Like he's not trying to be a dick. Like he's just like, hey, how can I use this? Like, because at the end of the day, being a game master is not just like a creative skill, but it's a practical thing. Like, and some of this stuff that you see out there, like it looks pretty, but like it's completely not. It's just a challenge to use. And so what this adventure contest is all about is create something useful in 2 pages plus a map. I'm looking forward to presenting something. I hope I win. I have a feeling I won't, but we'll see. But yeah, like, so I hope everyone does it. And I'm a big fan of creation. And I think if you're a game master, I've said this a lot on Twitter. I've said this in a couple videos. I'm going to be saying it more because I just feel like it. You're a game master. Be a game master. Create an experience for your players and just put it out there. And Ben is willing to publish you. So just do it, man. Just do it. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. And Ben, thank you for doing this. You've been doing it for a couple of years. I just think it's a great thing for the community and the industry as a whole. So
I get super excited. It wears out my fingers typing by the end of it because it's a lot of reviews. But I've also just gotten excited with all the creativity other people have. It's really just a privilege to see everybody's incredible ideas. If I can put the other hat of what I'm doing, you put it earlier. My wife and I. So as BK Gibson, because my wife is Karen, it's an open pen name. We say this is, we write together. We're BK Gibson. We've written quite a lot, but we haven't published yet because usually in the market you want to have a bunch of backlog to start publishing. So because of schedules and everything else, we're going to be starting our first novel, which is going to be fantasy. Sorry to disappoint you, Gary. It's going to be.
I'm sure it'll be good. There's good fantasy.
I mean, it's exciting, but that'll be in the summer. But the world that it's going to take place in, we have a story about mercenaries committing mayhem in the anthology of Mercs and Mayhem. So it's a short story anthology. It has sci-fi and fantasy short stories. I was really pleased with a lot of the quality of the stories that were around us. But we are in there too. If anybody wants to check that out, Mercs and Mayhem has been a lot of fun to.
Links in the chat.
Yeah, to look out. If you guys want to take a look at it, if you have Kindle Unlimited, it's free to download and take a look at it. If you don't, and you just want to buy the Kindle, it's cheap. If you want a physical book, please do, but don't support me by buying the physical book because Amazon takes like so much that it's the same amount. Even though the physical book is like $15 and the Kindle is like $5, it's the same amount for us who contribute to it. But I'm excited to see if I've always loved RPGs things, but I always love reading too. I think there's a lot of us who enjoy reading and playing. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to see if there is kind of an overlap there because we're going to be, seeing if people who like what we publish will also like what we write. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. Alexander Macrease, I've been talking with him. Macris is doing a anthology set in the Arn Empire.
Of
he's
course,
going to be doing soon. He's going to be releasing short stories. I might write for that one. We're going to send him a spec
that's
for
so
that.
Awesome! Yeah,
he's got a cool idea there. But that's an exciting idea too. Just seeing how he's going to do. Idea. Yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea.
It's a brilliant idea because what it does. Man, how many setting guides have you read where you kind of get a feeling, you think you kind of know how it works, but you're just really kind of adding your own things to fill it out?
Yep.
When you read a Dragonlance book and you're 12 years old, and the AD&D, not the modules, but the setting comes out, bro, your wheels are on fire. You're ready to go. You've read the stories. You know how people talk to each other. I think that Macrease doing that is great. I can't wait for him to come out. Yeah.
No, I'm excited. I hope that our pitch gets on there too, because he's going to be doing it based on the treasure tome. The pitch is basically take a magic item from the setting and write a short story based around it. I mean, it could be peasant picks up humor kind of story. It could be straight heroic stories, anything like that, but based on. But yeah, again, it's like the Dragonlance, Dragonlance. There's two reasons, because of the stories and also because of the amazing art. But it is that I think that's brilliant. I'm a big fan of seeing that. I'm excited to see how that project goes. But yeah, I'm just I'm excited about the fiction projects too, because we're trying to push all that.
I'm going to check them out. I'm on the page right now. So, and I will admit, I am one of those adults who's like, when does anybody have time to read? But I haven't, sat on the toilet without my phone in 10 years. So I'm sure there's time to read.
You can find time to read. Yeah.
I hate to tell you this, but Kindle's available on the phone.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson.
It
I
will not
appreciate
hurt my feelings if you read while
if I
pooping.
read your book. Just know that.
That's
Just
fine.
know that if I tagged you in a tweet, I'm just saying.
I'm fine with that. That doesn't hurt my feelings.
Hey, Mr. Gibson, thank you so much, Ben. It's great having you here.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the really fun things about this show is that I get to talk to people who are a bit smarter and mostly just have different perspectives on gaming. And all of these things kind of filter through when I'm running my game. So thanks for being here and humoring us. I'm glad that I'm one of the fools you suffer.
Dude,
Appreciate it.
I always enjoy. This is a fun show. I enjoyed it.
Well, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I've same here. Like one of the things I love about this is that we get to talk to like guys who are out there doing it and helping them get reach and learning something along the way. So, as always, later down the road, you want to shill something, please let us know. You're a friend of the show. You're always welcome. And just want to say, as we wrap up chat, you guys have been great. We really appreciate it. Great conversation, great questions. But if there's nothing else, I suspect, in fact, I'm pretty certain our watch has ended. Guys, next week we're going to have Travis Faber on. He's about to launch a Kickstarter on Full Metal Tilt, a jousting subsystem for your RPG games.
I am the champion of right now, by
He
the way.
cheated. He cheated. This motherfucker cheated. I'm just kidding.
I didn't even know how to play the game,
No, he
bro.
did. He totally
I had
cheated.
he said pick a box and I picked it and I won.
You'll have fun. Travis is a good dude.
He is a good guy.
Yeah, he is. He's been great. Like I've been talking to him for a little while now. We're looking forward to that. So hope to see you next week. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, have a great weekend. Take care.
Take care, guys.
Dude, get up. I think I heard something.